Rob Doster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hansbrough up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Tasker. You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Okay, so the schedule hasn't exactly been overwhelming the last couple nights of the college hoop season as it's gotten underway. However, last night we did see Michigan State go down to James Madison. Tonight, an SEC program lost to a Presbyterian team that had lost 18 straight games to end last season. We had a big-time matchup that's going on right now between number 20 Baylor and Auburn out in Sioux Falls. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark, sponsored now by BetMGM. And welcome back, Tyler Hansbrough, former North Carolina Star, National Player of the Year. Chris Mack, former Xavier Louisville head coach, and well-known Field of 68 alum. Now you've had a year under your belt, Mac, so you're ready to go in year two. All right, so first, Mac, I want to hit you. And I don't need a diatribe like we had last night from Rob Doster on this, but I want to know from a coach's perspective, how do we improve the schedule? Because it has been god-awful the first week of the season. I mean, you look at it, last night, Mac, there were 185 games. 72 involved non-D1s. Tonight, almost half of the games involved non-D1s. St. Mary's yesterday, a top 20 team, beat Stanislaus State, whatever the hell it is, by 80 points. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah, I don't get the Division II love, in terms of like the opening weekend and the opening set of games. Obviously, a lot of high major schools have the exempt events that are coming up in Thanksgiving. And I think that for those type of teams, Jeff, they're not necessarily going to run such a gauntlet all the way through. You've got your rivalry games that you have these conference challenges, whether it's ACC, Big Ten, whether it's Big East, Big 12, you have those that are on the schedule. And again, you have Bahamas, you have Hawaii, you have all these different exempt events that are on the schedule. And half the country's not even paying attention to basketball in the first 2-3 weeks. I think coaches with the transfer portal don't necessarily know what they have, what their team's going to look like. I think they want to give them a little bit of confidence as they start the year. I don't get all the Division II games. I'm sure that just doesn't affect their RPI or their net, I should say.
Yeah, the net.
That's why, the net. But at the same time, we never really scheduled Division II opponents other than exhibition games.
Hey, Tyler. Your Carolina team struggled a little bit last night. They made it interesting for at least a half against Radford. Then they pulled away. How about this stat, by the way? We're going to get to Michigan State in a minute, the one team that lost in the top 20. The other 19 teams in the top 20 who played last night won by an average of 39 points. That's how bad it was. Carolina, I think, won by 60. So they played it close. What was your take on your Tar Heels game one?
Well, my first take for me was that we continued to stay positive, and we pulled a close one out in the second half. Even though last year we saw at times where this team would face a little adversity and they would kind of show bad body language and they wouldn't really fight through it. So that's a positive sign that they're able to pull it together and have a big second half. But the thing that stands out to me is they had 18 assists last night. And we saw last year where they struggled. They had single-digit assist games. So they're sharing the ball. They are an older team. I think Cormac Ryan came out and had a big game for them. I think he's going to be a big-time player, transferred, 25 years old. These veteran players that teams are getting in the portal, we're starting to find out how important those guys are. And especially having older, stronger, or, these veteran players can benefit a team now. As you saw last year with San Diego State, I like the addition of the transfers, especially Cormac Ryan, Harrison Ingram. He's a guy who can play multiple positions and score. So it looks like they have good chemistry right now. R.J. Davis, who I'm expecting to have a big year, had a good game. But also their pace of play was much faster this year. They're getting back to running, which I like to see, and that's the Carolina way to me. So it was good to see him run again.
All right, Carolina wins. Michigan State does not. A top 5 team, a team that I picked to go to the Final Four. Tyson Walker was great, but they lose at home to James Madison in overtime. You know, listen, the one thing that surprises me with this, Mac, is they have a lot of veterans back. You know, it's not like they lost a ton. They brought in some really good freshmen, and I think Izzo's going to try to figure that out, right? Jeremy Fears, a freshman. Do you sit A.J. Hoggard, who's been up and down his career? What do you do? How much do we look into a loss like this for Michigan State, or is this a throwaway at the end of the day?
Well, I don't know if it's a throwaway because it's not a good loss. You know, obviously you want to start the season on a positive note. You know, 3 of their, returning players in Hoggard, Akins, and Malik Hall, I think they were combined 6 of 33, which is less than 20%. And just listen to Izzo in his press conference. You could tell he was their defensive intensity, and I think he sort of felt like it was because of so many missed free throws that sort of took the air out of Michigan State's balloon on the defensive end. And because of that, they just really struggled to guard JMU, who got in the lane at will and banged in some threes. But, you know, when you're 3 veteran players outside of, Tyson Walker, Hoggard, Akins, and Malik Hall shoot that poorly, it's going to be tough. I know they've got some freshmen, but those guys have been there before, and I think he was really surprised at their performance last night.
But shouldn't you be able to win a grinder? I mean, you do have veterans back. You're more talented. You're Michigan State. You're tough. Like Tyler, you go out in that first game and you're amped up, aren't you? I don't care if it's your freshman year. I don't care if it's your senior year. You are amped up to play because you've been waiting all off season for this. And again, you're Michigan State. It's not like you're coming off some great year last year.
Yeah, you're excited, and sometimes nerves can play a factor. I don't care if you're senior, junior. You've been having hard practices. The hardest practices are always in the beginning. So guys could be a little nervous. They went 1 for 20 from the three-point line, which is going to be tough to win when you do that in today's game. But also, I'm not worried about Michigan State because they have Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo he's a grinded-out coach. I am a little surprised when I look at the stat sheet and see that they gotten out-rebounded last night from James Madison, which is a big shocker to me. But I think Izzo will find a way. He has players, and it kind of goes against, his pedigree is losing these grinded-out games and especially getting out-rebounded.
Yeah, I mean, they're healthy. That's the biggest thing. Last year, I remember seeing them in Portland, and they were all banged up. They're actually healthy now. I'm not really worried about them, but I think what Izzo's got to figure out is, like, who's he going to ride on this team, right? They got a lot of good players, and Walker was the one guy who showed up last night. But, again, it's those freshmen that are really talented, right? Cohen Carr's a freak athlete. Fears is probably better than Hoggard, to be honest, but he's a freshman. So how much are you going to be able to play him right away? How do you figure out that situation? I think they got a lot of good players. I'm not worried about Michigan State here. But, again, I think and Izzo always plays a really tough schedule. I mean, they got to go next week. They got to play in Champions Classic. There's nothing easy for Michigan State. You wonder if I know Izzo doesn't want to lose this one, but it gets their attention right away, Mac, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's no way that Izzo wants to lose that one. I don't care who your coach is. If you're a player and you come out on opening night and lose the game the way they did, that's going to get your attention, and you're obviously going to have your ears perked up and, you're going to be ready to go in the next few practices leading up to that. But, like Tyler said, if there's anybody that will get his team to improve over the course of the year, it's Tom Izzo. And, it's just surprising to me that the veterans that he had that I mentioned before just didn't play well. Like, not one of them, all 3 of them didn't play well. And that's what it took for JMU to come out with a win, and kudos to those guys for that.
Auburn-Baylor now tied at 77 with about 2:48 left in Sioux Falls. We just talked about the team of the night, James Madison. The player of the night, Tyan Grant Foster. Grand Canyon, incredible story. I caught up with him earlier today, and, man, you're going to want to hear about this because Grant Foster, again, one of the cool stories in college basketball, went for 30 last night in his first game in 2 years. All right, now pleased to welcome in the star of the opening night, and that is none other than Tyan Grant Foster. And, man, your story's crazy. Crazy. Congrats. Going for 30 in your first game in basically 2 years' time. What did it feel like, before we tell your story a little bit, what did it feel like to be out there after 2 years off?
It felt great. It's really a surreal feeling, like to be back out there just doing the thing that I love. But it felt great. Great to get out there and just do what I love doing.
So your road has been well traveled, to say the least, right? Up in Kansas City, that area. Now at Grand Canyon, started your college career at Indian Hills, went to Kansas for a year. We'll get back to that. Then transferred to DePaul. Your first game at DePaul is November 10th, 2021 against Coppin State. It's the season opener. And you have a great first half. I think you had 9 points in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened next.
So I had just hit a three going into halftime, and we needed it. It was like a close game. We were down, just hit a three to put us up one, and then I just ran into the locker room for halftime, and then I just got lightheaded. Then I passed out. Then I just woke up and everybody was around me, and I didn't know what was wrong. So I just got up. Then I was like, what's going on? And then they told me everything that happened in the situation.
Did you think at that point it was something like, hey, I just didn't have enough water or something like that, and I passed out and I'm good to go. I'm going to go back out there and play the second half, or no?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely was I just thought I was dehydrated or something because I just got lightheaded, and that's all it was. So at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm about to get up. We about to go play again and everything. But then they were like, no, stay down. Everybody trying to make me stay down and everything. And I was just I was trying to figure out what's going on, but nobody wouldn't tell me until later.
So when was later? When did somebody, and how did you find out what really happened?
I found out when I was on my way to the hospital. Literally, when I got in the ambulance and I was on my way to the hospital, that's when they told me what happened.
Who were you with on your way to the hospital and the ambulance?
I was with Dr. Dwayne Peavy, the AD at DePaul, and I was with Mike Summers, our athletic trainer.
So you go to the hospital. I assume you have all these tests done. Did you know at that point that there was a good chance there was something with your heart?
Yeah, after they told me what happened, yeah, I definitely knew it was something that had to do with my heart. So it was everything else was just out the window. So after all the tests and everything, that's when they confirmed it. So
do you remember where you were, how you were kind of told, hey, listen, you may not ever play again? Yeah, I was. It was I was in the hospital for a week and a half. And then after all the tests had got done, they had told me it was a possibility that I probably couldn't play again, but they weren't sure. So you basically are a student then. You go back home, right, and you're taking classes online while trying to figure out exactly what you need to do to be able to hopefully play basketball again. What was that road like? What, kind of take me through what you're doing that year. I'm literally just waiting. I had to be patient. I couldn't, because all I had to do was my schoolwork and everything. I couldn't work out. I couldn't do anything. The doctors told me not to do anything. So at this point, I'm just waiting on my doctor's appointments. And I didn't have no control over how long that took and everything. So I had to just be patient and wait it out. So that year you're doing different doctor's appointments. You're waiting. And again, nothing kind of happens that year, right? You're just a student, online student, taking classes at DePaul, nothing else that whole year.
Yeah, that was it. Just online at home taking classes.
So what was that like, from a standpoint of trying to keep yourself, and I know you're a very positive person, always smiling, but it had to test you.
No, it definitely did. It definitely was hard, but just having the people around me just to keep me locked in, keep me focused, especially my mom. Like, she is probably the most faithful person that I know. Like, she will always tell me, like, you're going to be okay. She said, God got you, son. You're going to be okay. You're going to play again. So that just like people like Reese, just keeping me, letting me know that I'm going to be good and that they got me regardless. So that really helped me a lot, and I needed it.
All right, so you get through that year. Probably not easy. And then last year comes along. Another year of sitting and waiting, right? What was the difference between 2 years ago and last year? What did you end up doing all last season?
I would say last year I had my little brothers were playing basketball. So, like, I had something to go do. I would go watch them play and all of that, and then I wouldn't work out, but just watch them work out and stuff, and then help them get better at their game. So, but it got a lot easier as well because I had positive feedback from my doctors. So at this point, I'm starting to get positive feedback. Like, okay, this is looking good. This is looking good. And the tests that I'm doing, they're looking good. So it started to get a lot easier.
Are you thinking at some point though, like, all right, I don't know how many, now thankfully you guys had the COVID year also now, so you got an extra year that way, but are you thinking, hey, listen, time's kind of running out on me here. I'm getting a little bit older and I'm not sure I'm gonna get it. Maybe I get 1 year left to try to see what I can do.
Yeah, but I really wasn't thinking too much on that part. I was just worried about getting back to playing and getting back in playing shape, and then once I do get the opportunity, just play basketball the way I know I can play.
That was Ty and Grant Foster, Grand Canyon. Unbelievable story, Mac. I mean, 2 years off to come back. Think about that, like conditioning. He's not near 100%. He hasn't played a game. He wasn't able to really do anything for almost 2 years. No 5-on-5, no contact, no nothing. And he drops 30 in his first game back. And cool to see him smiling that whole time.
I mean, how confident can you be as a player after sitting out that long? I mean, you mentioned the conditioning, but to me, it's not even the conditioning. It's just the rhythm of being able to score that many points and feel that confident about yourself. Good for him, man. Sounds like a long road, but hopefully a happy ending for him.
Crazy part, Tyler, they could in a couple weeks, November 19th, they play in an MTE. They could play DePaul. And I asked him, I said,
Wow.
like, what would it mean to play DePaul again? Would that bring back bad memories? He's like, no. I have nothing but good memories about DePaul and everything that happened there. Obviously, he almost died. But in terms of how they supported him after that, and you knew he wasn't going to be cleared right away to play at DePaul.
Yeah, and it also puts things in perspective. This is definitely a game. And then to have that taken away, you really realize how important life is when you get an injury like that and you're away from the game. But also, he may have really missed it and been, taking shots into his mind and was just excited to get back on the court. So I can't imagine, what he's been through. But also, I respect him for staying the course and staying with it for after 2 years. That's very respectful.
All right, we got Baylor 85, Auburn 79. The Bears have taken the lead with 47.7 seconds left. Next up, we'll break down the end of this game live on After Dark.
College basketball season kicks off this week, and there is no better way to get prepared for the wild finishes, the bad beats, and the total unpredictability of the sport that we all love than by purchasing access to the Almanac, a project that we at the Field of 68 partnered on with 3 Man Weave heat check CBB, and verbal commits. Unlike last season, the Almanac is no longer a PDF. Rather, it is a website that features more than 1,500 words on each and every one of the 362 Division I teams in college basketball. We wrote more than 800,000 words in total. We spoke to every single Division I head coach to get a feel for the rosters, the rotation, the projected starter lineups, and what they think their team is going to look like this year. For everyone, from the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors, they deserve to be covered like they matter. And over at the Almanac, that is precisely what we do. Access costs just $19.99 for the year and can be purchased at the link in the description below. And now, back to our show.
All right, welcome back After Dark. I'm Jeff Goodman. He's Chris Mack. We got Tyler Hansbrough here, and we got a great game in Sioux Falls. Everybody wondering why the hell Auburn and Baylor played in Sioux Falls, but that crowd got treated to a hell of a game. Never more than 8 points either way. Auburn looked like they had control. Baylor kind of comes back late here. Jacoby Walter, Baylor's freshman, carried him early. But then, honestly, Ray J. Dennis, the Toledo transfer, makes some big plays late. They're up 4 right now with 27.3 seconds left. How big a win would this be, Mac, for Baylor to be able to pull it off the way they did, really not being in control the whole game and being able to go home with a win like this for a program that, again, they've got a lot of new dudes on this team.
Yeah, they sure do. That'd be a great win for Coach Drew. I mean, you think about it, you talked about Ray J. Dennis and him making some plays down the stretch, but at halftime he had 7 turnovers, and they looked out of sorts. I thought the game, just watching from afar, seems super physical. A lot of hand checks not being called, a lot of legal ball screens not being called, like two teams really athletic going at it. You mentioned Jacoby Walter. Wow. What a freshman. And this is an NCAA tournament game, just watching these two teams battle it out. You talked about not really having those type of games to start the season, but this sure is one.
Yeah, I commend both of these coaches, right? Bruce Pearl, Scott Drew, for playing a game like this. Again, the only thing I would say, and it's a good atmosphere in a neutral court, I would have loved to have a home and home starting off. I just think those atmospheres are better for the game than playing on. We've gotten into this neutral court thing so much now. How deflating is this for Auburn, Tyler? They came in unranked. This would have been a huge win for them. And right now they're down 3 with 19 seconds left. Still have a chance, but how tough would it be to go home from Sioux Falls with a loss?
It's a tough way to start your season, but you got to realize, Baylor's a quality team. So unlike a lot of these schools that play these D2 schools and just get an easy win, I respect Auburn, stepping up and taking on Baylor right away. But also, one thing I do respect is Scott Drew. He trusts his freshmen. Last year, Keontae George, he let him run and get some buckets up. And now this year, the Walters kid going at it again. I mean, I respect him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the one thing I would say about Auburn that worried me last year and worries me again this year a little bit, point guard play. Trusting your point guard. And again, Ray J. Dennis struggled in the first half, but at least he is a veteran, and he kept his poise in this one. We'll kind of break it down here at the end, Mac. Auburn fouls Baylor. Yeah, about 16 seconds left. You're just trying to extend the game as much as you can right now if you're Auburn, if you're Bruce Pearl.
First time going to the free throw line. This be interesting. There you go.
Yeah, Ray J. Dennis.
Mac.
Key addition. One of the biggest, honestly, one of the biggest keys in the country. He comes in as a point guard who replaces L.J. Cryer left.
L.J. Cryer leaves.
Out. Flagler graduate. He left. So really, they had their backcourt last year. Now you had to fill that void, and Ray J. Dennis hits the first one. So he's come up huge here. That to me says a ton about a kid, like a mid-major player who transfers up. He's playing in one of the biggest stages of his career, right? And like you said, he's awful first half, awful.
Yeah.
And somehow he finds a way at the end of the game. He hits another one. 2 free throws, making big plays. That's a lot mental toughness, man. Right?
I mean, understand, like he played in the MAC, and I know it's not a power conference, but like he's used to playing against really good guards and really good competition. And for him to be able to shake off having 7 turnovers in the first half and be as poised as he was in the second half, go to the free throw line with 16 seconds left in a 1-possession game where he hadn't been in the line yet. It's one thing if you're in a groove, you've been in the free throw line 8 times, you know how it feels, but you get there 39 minutes and 44 seconds into the game with the game on the line. It's 2 big free throws, but he's been there before.
Where you've watched Jacoby Walter here for a little bit, Tyler. I mean, it's your first look at him. I haven't seen him play much either, but man, he looks the part. You know, sometimes when you just look at a kid for a little while, you're like, all right, he's that big wing. You know, he's not a prolific scorer. At least that's not Scott Drew told me. Today he was. You know, today he's put up big numbers. All right, here we go. Auburn. This one's going to be over. They missed the layup, and looks like Baylor's going to seal the deal. And Scott Drew showing some emotion there. Showing some emotion because, again, this is a huge comeback. What Jacoby Walter, what were your first impressions on him, Tyler?
This is a big-time game. And, you know, sometimes these freshmen, especially he's one of the, I would say one of the top freshmen coming in this year in the country, but he's got size, he's got strength, and sometimes these players can just come in right away and just really adapt athletically when they're gifted and they get their confidence up. I can imagine how excited he was to step on the court tonight. I'm with you, though. I don't like the neutral games. I'd rather be at home, see the fans, get some students involved. I like it. But the other thing I want to say to Mac's point and, to the transfer, there's a lot of value in these veteran players. And I realize he's a senior transfer when I saw that. And that's one value to this portal is don't underestimate experience. And some of these guys who have played a lot of college basketball coming over and some of these schools getting these kids in the portal and having a big contribution to their team. I think that's kind of an underrated aspect that a lot of people don't really look at is these older players in the portal.
All right, so Bruce Pearl, but how about this stat? You know what his record was coming into tonight in season openers in his career? 27-1. 27-1 in his career. Bruce Pearl may play a cupcake next year, Mac. This may be it.
I'm saying he didn't play a lot of Baylor's in opening game 1. I can tell you that.
And he may not go for my new idea. My new idea is 16 teams playing the first week. You pick the teams, the matchups out of a hat in May 1st, and 16 teams with coaches with job security. You know, everybody, Alabama, Arkansas, Baylor, Auburn, Virginia, teams like that, Purdue, get 16 of them, and you play, 2 games on Monday. You're not going to play it on ESPN. You're going to play it on FS1 because of Monday Night Football. Couple on Tuesday, couple on Wednesday on the Deuce because you have NBA on ESPN, and you finish up Thursday and Friday. I think it'd be something great to have for the sport. Anyway, you know what else is good for the sport? Rick Pitino at St. John's. Really good for the sport. They beat Geno Ford in Stony Brook tonight. Joel Soriano, the one holdover. How about that? One holdover, basically. He had 22 and 11. He brought Dennis Jenkins with him from Iona. He had a big game. Had a couple Ivy League transfer ads. Chris Ledlam had a huge game, 16 and 14. Jordan Dingle came over. He had 13. They're still missing R.J. Luis, who UMass transfer is probably going to start for him. Where are you with Pitino this year, Mac? What do you think he does, and what constitutes a successful season for Pitino at St. John's this year?
Well, I think that, number one, I think they're going to be an NCAA tournament team. They're one of the best conferences in the country. His guys are going to be amped up, especially when they're at home. He's one of the best coaches in the history of college basketball. I think it's interesting when he first got the job after that press conference, it's like they didn't sign anybody for like a month. And it was like, what's taking so long? And then boom, 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 one after the other. To think that he's got the Ivy League Player of the Year coming off the bench and Jordan Dingle off the bench. And maybe that changes over time, but that's impressive. And just watching them tonight, it's a typical Pitino team. I felt like Stony Brook was getting sped up the entire night. Guys picking up, faking, run and jump at you, pressing, the cumulative just harassment, whether it's full court, half court. And then his team goes 11 of 22 from the three-point line. And you mentioned it before, like the one holdover. That's a pretty good holdover. Soriano might be you got Kalkbrenner at Creighton, but he might be, top 2, top 3 big guys in the conference. And I think Pitino after the game mentioned he lost 30 pounds. He's going to have him on the treadmill. He's going to have him in shape. It's going to be really interesting to watch St. John's this year.
Hey, how many of those stories did you hear when you were at Louisville? The old lore stories of Pitino, with a microphone in practice, running dudes on the – you must have heard a few of them.
I heard a lot of them, yes. Am I supposed to share them at this point or what?
No,
Am I supposed to share them at this point?
No, you don't have to share them. I don't want you to get in trouble. But I saw Pitino a few weeks ago, Tyler, and honestly, he doesn't act. He looks a little bit older than he did when he was at Louisville. When I was there a bunch, through those Kevin Ware days and Edgar Sosa and Russ Smith and those guys. He doesn't act much older. He's rejuvenated. You could tell because, again, he never thought he'd get this chance again. He thought he was done. And I said it when he got Iona. I was like, there's no way this is the last stop for Rick Pitino. There's no way because he's going to win at Iona and somebody else is going to hire him. How St. John's is not a great job, Tyler. It hasn't been relevant for years. But when you have Rick Pitino, when you could sell the NBA and you could sell NIL, which he's got right now, that's a pretty strong trio.
Absolutely. And it is amazing to me, Pitino, a guy who's coached through different eras of basketball, a guy who, is an older school coach, but still has the same energy. But also a lot of people talk about coaches who, would they be able to coach in the NIL era? Things like that. But Pitino has made that transition perfectly. He's gotten St. John's. There's a lot of energy around that program right now. He's gotten a lot of, big time transfers, but his style works as the game evolves and a lot of people are going small ball. He continues to play his system and it's just a winning system and he's great at what he does.
You know what he said to me, Mac, too? He said, one of the things that's easier to coach these guys right now is because he's so much older. He says, they kind of listen to me. They think I know what I'm talking about now because I'm a Hall of Famer and I'm old. So it's almost like I don't have to get up in them nearly as much. They're coachable and they kind of just listen to me because, what I've done and obviously the career he's had.
Well, sure, that's a big part of it. I mean, anytime you have a pedigree and you have history of what you've done with other teams and other programs and the national championships that he's won, you're going to have the attention of your players. But I don't for 1 minute think that he's just sitting back and sort of explaining things in drills. I think that he's still going to be holding guys accountable to the highest level. I think the treadmills are still going to be humming on the side of practices. And I think his guys are going to be in as good a shape as any players in the country. And that's just sort of been his MO for a long, long time, and that will continue to be until he's done coaching.
Yeah, and I think he finishes at St. John's. I don't think he goes anywhere from there. I think this is his last stop. I don't know if they make a Final Four, but what I will say is he makes them relevant now every single year. Like year one, you got momentum. And now can you pick up in year 2 and 3? I mean, they're going to get some good recruits because they got big-time NIL right now. Big-time NIL.
Yeah, they're going to get some good recruits. And the other part of it is, MSG is always rocking, whether it's a Big East tournament or whether you play St. John's there. And they only played a couple games, it seemed like a year there. And I know that he's had conversations to make sure. I'm not sure if every Big East game is there, but virtually every single one of them is there in MSG. And I can only imagine on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, playing the Johnnies in MSG with Coach Pitino on the sideline. It's going to feel different.
You know what else
feel different? I wouldn't want to get opposite of them in the Big East tournament in the quarterfinal. No. I can tell you that.
Hell no. You don't want to see them at all. At all. You know who else you probably don't want to see in a couple of years? Georgetown. I think it's going to take Eddie, obviously, Ed Cooley, a little bit longer. He didn't reload like Pitino did right away, but Georgetown's got a lot of money around that program. He'll have NIL next year. I think this year they're probably, if they're an NIT team, that's a hell of a year. I don't even think they're going to be an NIT team this year. They win tonight. They play Lemoyne. Cooley's first win at Georgetown. I love his top player is a kid who transferred from Fairfield. He got late, named Supreme Cook. Big kid. I saw him play last year in person against New Hampshire. You know Cooley well, Mac, from your days, right? In the Big East, you know him pretty well?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think Cooley at Georgetown? First of all, how shocked were you when he left Providence, when you found out he left Providence for Georgetown?
I don't know if shocked. I was surprised, though. I think that when it came all the way down to it, I didn't think that he would make that jump. I think there was obviously a lot of speculation leading up in the last month or so. It seemed like that's who Georgetown was targeting. But at the end of the day, I wasn't quite sure that he was going to pull the trigger. And so I'm sure it's rejuvenated him. I'm sure he's, anytime you take over a fresh new place, you're learning for the very first time, but, you can sort of do things that have allowed you to be successful at your old place, but also maybe put some new spins on some things that you always thought about doing, but just didn't at your last place. And I think that Ed is, he's a fiery type coach. Players love playing for him. They're going to run through a wall for him. It's going to take him a little time to get, some of his guys. But obviously with the transfer portal, things can happen quicker than they used to be in the past. So Ed will get it going. I have no doubt. Obviously tonight was an easy one. But, there's reason to be optimistic if you're a Georgetown Hoya fan.
Tyler, I always say, sometimes people talk about a job and they say it's not a good job, when to me it's more on the previous coaching staff. I feel like Georgetown's one of those where people have said for 15 years now, Georgetown's not a great job. I think it's got high upside. The only detriment to Georgetown is the arena. It's an NBA arena. It's not on campus. It's huge. But I think if you win at a high level, they'll come. They'll come no matter where if you win at a high level. I felt like Patrick Ewing, unfortunately didn't get it done there. John Thompson III, back when you were playing, he had him going a little bit, and then it fell off. What's your take on this Georgetown job and what it can be at its ceiling?
I think Georgetown is hungry to have a good team back. I mean, they're a storied program. When I was in college, they had Roy Hibbert, Jeff Green, a lot of good players. They were still relevant, Final Four team. I see no reason why their ceiling can't be, a contender. And I think Cooley has a chance to turn around a program faster than normal because of the portal. And I expect, him to go portaling. And also, Georgetown is an easy sell. There's a lot of, history there. There's a lot of great players that have come through Georgetown. So I think they're hungry to get back to what the program has always been. And also, they needed a proven coach to come in and try to, right the ship right away.
Energy. That's what the Georgetown program really didn't have, coaching over the last 15 years. That what Cooley's different than everybody else, isn't he, Mac? Like his personality might be almost unique in college basketball. And it's hard to say, but he's I don't even know, how do you describe him?
Well, he's got a big personality. And I think, the thing I've always been impressed with about Ed is his ability to connect with literally anybody. He just has a special gift, whether he's talking to the president of the university or he's talking to the guy that sweeps the floors. Ed makes people feel really good, and it's not fake. It's genuine. It's sincere, and he's got a loud personality. He's a funny guy, and he's a guy that can get downright serious with his players and go to bat for them. And like I said before, kids love playing for him. They run through a wall for Ed. He's going to do great things at Georgetown.
Next and After Dark, I'm going to tell you why my daughter was sweating it out in Bloomington, Indiana tonight, and why I'm worried about the Indiana Hoosiers this season.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD200 and you will receive $200 in bonus bets instantly when placing your first wager of at least $10 with BetMGM. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD200. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game regardless of sport. You will receive $200 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your wager. Just make sure that you use the bonus code FIELD200 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
All right, welcome back. Field of 68 After Dark. I'm Jeff Goodman here with Chris Mack, Tyler Hansbrough, and not a great slate of games, but we had some interesting endings here. And Indiana out in Bloomington playing Florida Gulf Coast was certainly one of those. They were down with 10 minutes to go. They were down a handful, and their offense looked awful in the first half. And they came back. They made a run, and they did it with the freshman Gabe Cupps on the court and the highly touted freshman Mackenzie Mbako on the bench. And I like this. I don't know if Mike Woodson's going to be able to go with this, Mac, but I like it because I just think it gives them more balance and more of another ball handler, maybe another perimeter shooter. Mbako is a pretty good shooter, but I just don't love the front line, the spacing when you have Mbako, Renew, and Khalil Ware. I don't like it. I feel like it's like a 1980s look, and I know they can all step out a little bit, but they're not really guys that you're going to respect stepping out. You're gonna dare them to make them until they start to make them. How much do you worry about that in this day and age when, to me, you better have shooting, and they were 4 for 13 from 3 tonight as a team?
Yeah, I've got to see a few more games for me to make what I think would be an accurate assessment of the front court. I would say this. I thought Florida Gulf Coast, I thought their ball screen defense, downing or icing the ball screens on the side, really gave Indiana a tough way to go, especially for the first half. I was really impressed with Khalil Ware, though. They used him as a decision maker. When they started down in ball screens, the guard started taking the ball down and throwing it back to the high post, and he made some really nice passes and almost became more of a distributor than scorer. I know that on the telecast they were talking about him being a first-round type of guy, and I can see that. His ability to handle the ball and make decisions was impressive for a 5. You lose a guy like Trace Jackson Davis, who you're not necessarily going to be able to replace production-wise, but I was really impressed by Ware. And for Indiana to be able to, take that punch, and I think they went on like a 14-0 scoring run in the second half and really iced the game down the stretch. But Cupps can be on the floor. He's a coach's son. We recruited him. He has got a high IQ. He can shoot. And it gives you a second ball handler that maybe doesn't put Xavier Johnson, feeling like he has the weight of the world and all the decisions on his back as he's playing point guard for the Hoosiers.
You know what? Early on, they didn't play with any emotion, any intensity. I thought Cupps coming in gave him that defensively. He got up in dudes. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes you need that, right, Tyler? Like the one thing you did, you always play with intensity. You played with emotion. And I think, honestly, some of your teammates benefited from that because they were kind of cool dudes, right? Some of your teammates were not the most Kyle Lawson, he was not emotional at all, was he?
No, I think, a lot of my teammates, you look at Wayne Ellington, one of the smoothest, calmest people you can play with. Energy is contagious, and not a lot of people talk about the spirit of a team. It's a huge factor and can play a big role in any team and have great chemistry. But also, when I look at this Florida Gulf Coast and Indiana game, if you're going to have some non-shooting lineups out there, you better out-rebound them. And I saw Florida Gulf Coast out-rebounded them, which you've got to control the boards, especially if you're going to have an advantage size-wise like Indiana does. So you got to take care of that. But also, Florida Gulf Coast shot 33%, I think, from the free throw line, which is, probably may have cost them the game. Those are super important. But in today's game, defense and, pressuring the ball and all that stuff, and the downing of the ball screens and making people stay in front of you, I'm old school. I like defensive pressure. I like getting into ball handlers, making them, turn the ball over, force some turnovers. I like hard hedges. I know it's old school, but I think it can be effective at times. And not a lot of young players or college players see that type of defense a lot. And I think sometimes your best offense can be your best defense and lead to turnovers and fast break points.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier about these early season games, Mac, and how much you want to take from them, like this one, right? Indiana struggles a little bit. They don't look great. They didn't look great in the exhibition games either. Again, I'm the only one who's got to, I got to watch these only because of my daughter. But like, how much are you putting in these when you struggle or you're winning by 40, which a lot of these teams did yesterday? Like, what are you trying to take from these games?
Well, I think it depends on where your program's at. But, listen, not every low major and mid major team can be grouped all in one. Florida Gulf Coast is good. I don't want to throw any other team under the bus, but let's just say Abismo State Northwestern isn't good, right? And so when you see somebody beat them by 50, it's not the same as IU beating Florida Gulf Coast by 6. Pat Chambers is a hell of a coach. He's got some really good players. I thought their scheme in terms of downing ball screens, and again, not being on IU staff, I don't know, did Florida Gulf Coast ever show that in the past? Who knows? It's game one. There's zero film. You might have an exhibition or two if you're lucky. And, the Florida Gulf Coast film that you're watching, if you're IU's coaching staff, is a manager's copy that's probably, cutting off every 30 seconds. So you don't even know the guy's numbers that you're watching. It's tough. It's tough, man. And again, some of these cats can play. You look at last year, you look at the Final Four, you got San Diego State and you have Florida Atlantic. And there's a reason that some of these teams, develop freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and all of a sudden you become a veteran type team. I'm not really sure Florida Gulf Coast makeup, but just watching them, it sure looked like those guys didn't bat an eye when they lined up with the Hoosiers.
I
think you can take, if you're Mike Woodson, I think you take away hey, listen, man, we were down virtually the entire game, like you talked about. Now he knows that he can really trust Cups out there. Who else can we develop? You start to tinker and you find out, as Tyler said, hey, man, we got our asses handed to us on the backboard. And if we're going to play, guys that aren't necessarily perimeter type players, then we've got to carve out a lot better identity inside the lane. And he'll figure it out, man. He's been around the game a long time.
Yeah, the one thing I've learned over the years is not to overreact necessarily to one game. I remember a few years ago, Quentin Grimes, who's not a great shooter, at Kansas Champions Classic. It was their first game, and he went for 27. He was 5 for 7 from 3. And I was just hey, is this good? And then everybody moved him up in the mock drafts after one game, and then he didn't make shots really the rest of the year. And again, you kind of learn. Even Terrence Shannon last year in Vegas, if you remember, there was a game where he went bananas. I was at it. He didn't miss a 3. And everybody's like, oh my God, Terrence Shannon's going to be a great shooter now. And it's no. Everybody, you could have those games, those outlier games. So I think one of the things that you got to be careful of, not just with players, but with teams, is not to overreact to one game right now, early in the season, because so many teams have completely revamped, personnel.
Yep.
Now, again, Michigan State didn't. That's the one thing that shocked me is, again, if that had happened to maybe a different team that had a completely new group, I would have been like, okay, no big deal. Give them a mulligan. Even Indiana, right? They lost 4 or 5 starters last year. They lost, Trace Jackson Davis, who was probably the second best player in the country. So you look at them and you say, all right, yes, it's so early. Mike Woodson's probably trying to figure out how to play. Again, for me, my biggest question mark isn't necessarily – it's more of the construction of the roster, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Tyler.
I hear you. But let me tell you something. When he goes in to watch film early in the morning or tonight, it always feels a lot better to watch that film when you're 1-0 versus 0-1. He has a much different feeling than Tom Izzo watching that film right now.
No question. All right, before we hit our future segment, sponsored by BetMGM, I want to touch on one big upset tonight. And Vanderbilt was without 3 key guys. All right, 3 key guys were sitting out due to injury, including their best player, Ty Lawrence. But they lost to Presbyterian. Presbyterian, I think, was 344 last year in Ken Palm. They had lost 18 straight games to end last season. Vandy had momentum last year. At the end of the year, Stackhouse finally had momentum the second half of year 4, and he gets hit by the portal a little bit. In fact, Lawrence went in the portal and then decided to come back to school, but he lost a bunch of other good players. And now they lose to one of the worst teams in all of college basketball, Tyler. Are you worried about Jerry Stackhouse, his future in Nashville?
Maybe a little bit. This is a tough one, but Vanderbilt had an off-night shooting, and they had some of their key guys out. And Stackhouse is my guy. I can't come on here and say bad, but hey, this one you can't sugarcoat it. It's a tough loss for them. Maybe they bounce back, but they have been a little sporadic. They've had big wins and then some, kind of a roller coaster ride. But this is a tough one.
Well, I mean, my take, Mac, on this is like Vandy's got history. People forget about it. Like when Kevin Stallings was there, he had it rolling. They had pros. They were developing dudes. It's a tough place to play, obviously, for the way the building's constructed, where the benches are. The fans are pretty good there when they're winning. What do you think? How do you get it back if you're Stack? Because again, we know he's a good coach. That's not the issue with Jerry Stackhouse. The issue, honestly, is getting enough talent and retaining that talent.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before, though. He's got 3 major guys out right now, and Lawrence is a terrific player. Just watching them in the second half of the year last year, I mean, he was the guy that made them go. And obviously he's missing him a lot. I think that, if Jerry's shown anything, it's his ability to have his team improve as the year goes on. Does he want to lose game 1? Absolutely not. But again, being shorthanded, I'm sure that he'd be the first to tell you he's offering no excuses to lose to Presbyterian, a team that hasn't really done much in the last 5-10 years. But at the same time, again, I give him the benefit of the doubt of the guy that improves his team, and they were playing as well as anybody in the SEC at the end of the year a year ago.
All right, next, our future segment. I'm going to give you a team that's plus 800 that I'm going with to win the SEC. So make sure you come back. Field of 68 after dark. Next.
College basketball season kicks off this week, and there's no better way to get prepared for the wild finishes, the bad beats, and the total unpredictability of the sport that we all love than by purchasing access to the Almanac, a project that we at the Field of 68 partnered on with 3-Man Weave, Heat Check CBB, and Verbal Commits. Unlike last season, the Almanac is no longer a PDF. Rather, it is a website that features more than 1,500 words on each and every one of the 362 Division I teams in college basketball. We wrote more than 800,000 words in total. We spoke to every single Division I head coach to get a feel for the rosters, the rotation, the projected starter lineups, and what they think their team is going to look like this year. For everyone, from the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors, they deserve to be covered like they matter. And over at the Almanac, that is precisely what we do. Access costs just $19.99 for the year and can be purchased at the link in the description below. And now, back to our show.
All right, welcome back. Field of 68 After Dark. And now we've got our Bet MGM Futures segment where we go around to a couple of the leagues and give you our take on who we like and maybe some value picks. All right, we're going to start in both of your leagues. All right, we're going to go ACC, make it easy for both of you guys. Duke, the clear favorite, Tyler, plus 125. Your Carolina Tar Heels second, plus 375. Miami, plus 500. Virginia, Tony Bennett wins the league every year, plus 700. I'm going to take Tony Bennett just because I think it's value. And again, it's Tony Bennett. He wins the damn league every year. Why wouldn't I take him at plus 700? Am I crazy, Mac?
Yeah, you're crazy. I don't know if it has anything to do with Virginia winning the league or not, but that's not a bad bet. Very, very good value. I'm going to actually get a little bit more value. I think I'm going to go with Brad Brownell at Clemson. I think that he's got a really good team this year, and I think it's going to be the Tigers' year. I really do. I like the addition of Joe Girard. I think P.J. Hall is completely healthy. Obviously, Chase Hunter's really good. I really like their team. I still think Duke's obviously the favorite, but I think if you're going to take a value pick for me, it would be the Clemson Tigers.
Tyler, you're going to take Carolina, aren't you? Plus 375. You like that. I know you do.
You know what? This is going to be shocking. I'm taking Duke, and they're returning 4 or 5 starters. I know I'm a front runner, but listen, I actually do like Duke's roster right now. I think Ryan Young plays a great part. He's an underrated piece that not a lot of people talk about. But also Filipowski getting healthy. He talks about he's feeling much better. He had a great year last year. I can't imagine the type of year he's going to have when he feels, pretty good. But for me, I think a key is Jeremy Roach. A lot of people aren't talking about. Last year, he dealt with a lingering issue that kind of, hindered his play a little bit. I think he's going to catch his stride and become the player that a lot of people thought he was. But a sleeper for me was actually Miami. And Norchad Omier, I think he's good. Wooga Poplar, I think he's also a veteran guard coming back, can play both ends of the court. And Larinaga can really coach.
All right, it's time to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It's the place to store your own bold predictions forever. And by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove you're smarter than your friends. Go download the Vaulted app and give it a try for free. Vaulted is spelled VLTED. It's the app to challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools without any entry fee. Download Vaulted today. All right, Tyler, here's my Vaulted challenge to you. I went in there and I said Louisville is going to win less than 9 games this season. Tyler, what is your take? Louisville under 9, less than 9 games. Are you with me or do you disagree?
No, I'm with you, and I would raise your bet. I actually called a game that they lost to Kentucky Wesleyan, and I do not know how that Louisville lost to them. Louisville's in a tough situation. It's not too optimistic times right there. I don't really see, the bright spots. I don't really have them winning much this year. I'm with you, Jeff.
All right, we're going to hit the SEC quick futures, all right, because I really like one here a ton. Tennessee's plus 300. They're the favorites. Texas A&M next with Buzz Williams is plus 500. Florida plus 600, as you see. Kentucky plus 600. Arkansas plus 800, and Alabama also plus 800. I love Arkansas here for the value. Am I nuts? But like Muss, it takes some time, but once he figures it out, they're usually pretty damn good in January. I just think this thing is wide open. I think you could throw a dart at any one of the, and I wouldn't have Florida ahead of Kentucky, Arkansas, or Alabama. I think you could say any one of these 5 teams can win it, Mac.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. Obviously, Tennessee, veteran, defends you. I like Buzz's group a lot, but I think that's why the odds are so high, even for the odds-on favorite there. I think it's sort of a crapshoot. I would go with probably 6 teams, including Alabama in that have an opportunity to win the SEC.
You got anybody in the SEC, Tyler?
I think I'm gonna roll with Tennessee. I think Zakai Ziegler is going to get healthy, but also I'm with you. I do like Musk. I like Arkansas. Travion Brazil is healthy now. I think he's a big time player. Could be an impact right away. So I like both of those picks. I don't think there's a clear favorite here.
Last one before we get to our toast of the night. Big East, defending national champs UConn plus 275. Marquette the same. Creighton plus 320. Those three are super close. I kind of like Villanova. I've said that I think they have a chance to go to the Final Four. I know people question them because of Kyle Neptune, and it's not Jay Wright coaching them, but I think they're old. They've got a couple guys that have been in the program for a while, in Eric Dixon and Justin Moore. Moore's healthy. So I'm going with Nova plus 600 here. Mac?
You know what? I hate to piggyback off of you for more than one reason, man. I actually had Villanova as well. It's really good value. The fact that they dismantled American the other night is one thing, but what really caught my attention was having 4 guys in double figures. The fact that they have Baker Dunleavy back on the bench. I just feel like the culture that Jay really drove and created there at Villanova. Obviously, with a hiccup last year, it's a learning curve for Kyle. I know he was at Fordham, but that's a different animal at Villanova. And I think him having a veteran crew, Justin Moore being healthy, I just think that's really good value. I like Villanova. I think that culture is going to be back, seen on the floor, just like it was last night against American.
Oh, you're not going the favorite again, are you? You're not making a trifecta of favorites here.
I can't be a front runner across the board. Actually, I did have the favorite, but I'll switch it up real quick. I'm actually going to roll with Creighton. I like Kalkbrenner. I like what McDermott's doing there. I think they've got some guys coming back that are key, and they can score at times. And I think Kalkbrenner makes him a defensive threat when he's in the game. So I think Creighton's going to be a contender.
All right, let's get to our toast of the night. All right, I'm going to start us off. It's easy for me. All right, this guy lost 18 straight games last year, Quentin Farrell at Presbyterian, the head coach, to end the season. They get a win right away. Game 1, they beat Vanderbilt tonight. Quentin, you deserve this Allagash White that I just popped open. So congrats, my man. Congrats and enjoy it. And I hope you pop open more than just one tonight. What do you got, Mac?
I'm gonna go with Mountain Dew Zero here, and that's gonna be. Yeah, man, it's a Tuesday night. I gotta ease off the Miller Lights. I just want to give a shout out to Jacoby Walter. I know we talked about him earlier in the program, but a freshman, a big time game playing against Auburn. Goes 10 of 10 from the foul line, 28 points, really was the guy for a while, especially in the first half when his teammate was struggling. Here's to Jacoby Walter, the freshman. Hopefully he has many more games for the Baylor Bears, just like he did tonight.
Tyler, who you got? Finish it off.
Well, I got my Gatorade Zero here, Mac, but I'm going to roll with Cormac Ryan. I'm still hanging around the Smith Center every once in a while, and every time I'm down there getting a workout in, I see him in there putting in work, and so it's been good for Carolina. And I know he had a good start to the year, and it's good to see that hard work pays off. So he's getting my shout out tonight.
There's a rule. Right? They have to have played tonight, Tyler, not last night. They played last night. So next time. You're a veteran by now. It's not your rookie year anymore. Sorry.
You're right. I'll have one.
We're going to give you a mulligan. See, Tyler's been playing too much damn pickleball. That's his problem, Mac.
Nothing wrong with pickleball.
About 3 hours a day.
All right. Listen, for Chris Mack, for Tyler Hansbrough, for our producer, Dagan Hughes, I'm Jeff Goodman. Thanks for joining us. Field of 68 After Dark. We'll see you tomorrow night, same time.